The distress signal came without warning. A burst of static, a broken voice, then silence. From the edge of human space, the small mining colony of Vela 4 had lived quietly for years, far from trade routes, forgotten by the central worlds. The colony wasn't important, just another scarred rock drilled for rare ores. But when that signal went out, command stations across the sector responded. A rescue shuttle broke through the stormy upper atmosphere. Its hull groaned against the winds, lights flickering across clouds heavy with dust. Inside, the crew sat tense. Mining colonies often sent distress calls, but something about this one felt different. The message had carried no details, only one phrase repeated 3 times. "They're here. Help us, they're here." The shuttle touched down in silence. No one came to greet them. No miners, no security staff. Only the endless wind pushing across empty landing pads. Lieutenant Harrow, leading the team, raised his visor. "Stay sharp. Something's wrong." The team advanced into the settlement. The colony's power grid was failing. Lights buzzed and died in the narrow corridors, shadows crawling across walls. Rooms lay abandoned. Tables overturned, tools scattered. Air thick with dust and the faint stench of something burned. Then came the first sound, a faint tapping, slow, uneven. From deeper inside, the rescue team followed it, weapons raised. Past shattered doors, past empty bunks. The sound led them to an old storage shelter at the colony's edge. Its blast door was half collapsed, scorched with black streaks as if something had tried to claw its way out. Harrow gave a hand signal. 2 soldiers pried open the door. Inside, the shelter was dark. A dim lamp flickered, and in the center of the ruined space stood a boy. No older than 12. Dirty, thin, but standing straight as if daring the intruders to step closer. He wasn't afraid. "Identify yourself," Harrow ordered. The boy narrowed his eyes. "Don't come closer." There was something strange about his stance. Not defensive, protective. His body angled slightly, shielding something behind him. The team spread out, lights sweeping the room. The boy tensed at every movement. Then the sound came again. Not tapping this time. A hiss. Low, sharp, alien. The soldiers froze. Weapons rose instantly. Harrow's voice was steel. "What's behind you, kid?" The boy shook his head. "Don't touch them." The hiss grew louder. A second hiss joined it, higher pitched, almost like a warning cry. The shadows behind the boy shifted, and then the rescuers saw them. 2 small figures crouched low in the darkness. Their skin shimmered faintly under the light, patterns glowing along their arms and faces, patterns every soldier recognized from battlefield reports. Their eyes glowed gold, slit-pupilled, watching with sharp intelligence. Zerathians. The soldiers swore under their breath. Zerathians weren't just any alien species. They were humanity's oldest enemies. And these weren't just ordinary Zerathian children. The markings, the faint crown-like ridges. Recognition struck Harrow like ice. These were the missing daughters of the Zerathian queen, the most feared ruler in the galaxy. The same queen who had slaughtered entire fleets without mercy. Her 2 daughters had been lost years ago, vanishing after an assassination attempt. Their disappearance had ignited wars, whispered rumors, endless bloodshed, and here they were, in a broken shelter. With a human boy standing guard, the room vibrated with tension. Every soldier's finger hovered over the trigger. The boy spread his arms wide, shielding the alien children. His voice trembled but did not break. "Don't touch them," Harrow's breath caught. This wasn't possible. Why would a human boy defend the heirs of an alien empire? Why would they hide behind him like frightened siblings? The smaller alien child hissed again, but not in hatred, in fear. The boy glanced back at her, then at the soldiers. "They're mine to protect," he said, voice low, steady. One of the soldiers barked, "Kid, do you know who they are? They're not pets, they're—" "Shut up," the boy snapped. His voice was fierce now, filled with a strange fire. "I don't care what you call them. They're my sisters." Silence fell. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. The weight of the discovery pressed on them all. If Command knew about this, fleets would move, treaties would shatter, war would burn again. Billions could die, but in this moment, in this dark shelter, it was only a boy and 2 alien children clinging to him, as though he were their only shield against the universe. Harrow felt his throat tighten. He lowered his weapon slightly. "Kid," he began, his voice softer now. "You don't understand what this means." The boy's eyes burned in the dim light. I do, he said. It means if you take them, the galaxy goes to war. So I'll say it again. He stepped forward, standing between the soldiers and the hissing alien princesses. Don't touch them. His voice rang against the steel walls, fierce and unbreakable. They're mine to protect. The soldiers froze, weapons still raised, shadows flickering around them. And outside, far above the colony, in the endless black of space, something vast stirred, because the moment the signal had gone out, the Zerathian Queen had already begun moving her fleets, and she was coming. The silence after the boy's outburst was heavy, broken only by the faint hiss of the two alien children behind him. The rescue team stood frozen. Their orders had been simple: investigate, rescue, report. But this was history, politics, and danger, all in one dim-lit shelter. Lieutenant Harrow studied the boy. His face was streaked with dirt, hair wild, clothes torn from long wear. But his eyes, steady, stubborn, were the eyes of someone who had already made his choice. "Son," Harrow said carefully, lowering his weapon a little, "tell me your name." The boy hesitated, then answered, "Callan." "And them?" Harrow nodded at the hissing figures. Callan's jaw tightened. "My sisters." The soldiers shifted uneasily. Everyone knew the truth. Those weren't his sisters. They were royalty, the heirs of humanity's most dangerous enemy. But no one dared push the boy yet. Harrow signaled his men to lower their weapons. "All right, Callan, let's talk. How long have you been here?" Callan's voice was sharp. "Since the crash." "Since I found them." That word crash hung heavy in the air. "You mean their escape pod?" Harrow asked. Callan nodded once. "It came down during a storm. Most of it burned up. I thought they were monsters at first." He glanced back at the two alien girls, their golden eyes watching him with unblinking trust. "But they were just kids scared alone like me. Like you?" "My parents." Callan's voice faltered. He swallowed hard. "The sickness took them. Everyone here got sick. One by one they died. When the pod crashed, I was already alone." The team shifted, suddenly understanding. That explained the empty colony, the silence in the corridors. "I could have left them," Callan continued, voice low but steady. "But they needed me. And I needed them." Harrow's mind raced. This boy, stranded on a dying colony, had raised not just survivors. He had raised the lost daughters of the Zerathian Queen. He had taught them, fed them, kept them alive, and worse for humanity, he had bonded with them. One of the girls, the smaller one, crawled forward. Her eyes glowed faintly, her skin etched with faint silver lines that pulsed with her heartbeat. She clutched Callan's sleeve, hissing softly at the soldiers. Callan knelt beside her, whispering something in a language that wasn't fully human. The soldiers stiffened. "Lieutenant," one whispered, "he's teaching them. Our language. Not just teaching, bridging worlds, Callan." Harrow pressed, voice firm now. "Do you know who they are?" "So that's mine," Callan snapped back. Then softer. "They're all I have." The older alien child stepped forward. Taller, her markings brighter, she looked straight at Harrow with eyes far too wise for her age. Then in broken human words she spoke. No hurt. "Brother safe," the soldiers flinched. The sound of a Zerathian voice speaking human tongue sent chills through the room. Callan placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "See? They trust me. They're not your enemies. They don't even remember the wars." But Harrow remembered. Everyone did. Worlds burned, ships torn apart, entire colonies wiped out under the Zerathian Queen's command. The very idea of her daughters being raised by a human boy felt like a nightmare or a miracle. Harrow stepped closer. "Callan, listen. If Command finds out about this, they'll take the girls away. Do you understand? They'll use them." "They'll use you." Callan's eyes hardened. "I won't let them." The soldiers exchanged glances. It wasn't just childish stubbornness. This boy meant it. Harrow exhaled slowly. He could already hear the voices in the high councils of Earth, arguing over this discovery. Some would demand the girls return to the Queen, hoping to avoid war. Others would want them as hostages, bargaining chips, or worse, subjects for dissection. And in the middle of it all was a boy who thought of them as his family. The older alien child spoke again, tugging Callan's hand. "Brother, go!" Callan looked at her, then at Harrow. "We're not staying here. You'll just take them from me." Harrow shook his head. "You don't understand the scale, son. This isn't about you anymore. The Queen has been searching for them for years. If she learns they're alive, she'll come. I know, Callan said quietly. She'll come. But not for you. For them. The weight of his words sank deep. One of the soldiers muttered under his breath, "Lieutenant, we should secure the kids. The brass will want them." The two alien daughters hissed in unison, clutching Callan tighter. He spread his arms again, defiant. "You try to take them, you'll have to go through me." The boy's voice carried more steel than a dozen soldiers. The message crossed the galaxy in less than an hour. It traveled through encrypted human channels, leaked by frightened officers, and carried by spies who knew its worth. Two words repeated in every corner of the network: "They're alive." The lost daughters of the Zerathian Queen had been found. At first, the news was dismissed as rumor. Too many years had passed since the day of the assassination attempt, when the Queen's ship was ambushed and her children vanished in fire and debris. Some claimed they had perished. Others whispered that rival clans had hidden them. The galaxy had moved on in blood and bitterness, but then came the proof: grainy holo footage, smuggled from the human rescue team's body cams, two small figures with glowing markings, and a boy, a human boy, standing guard over them. When that footage reached the Zerathian throne world, the entire empire held its breath. Inside the darkened chamber of the royal citadel, the Queen watched in silence. The holoscreens bathed her in cold light. She was tall, draped in flowing armor that shimmered like molten stone, her crown of ridges rising like a blade. Her eyes, golden and fierce, had stared down admirals, assassins, and prisoners alike. She had never flinched, but now her claws tightened against the throne, her daughters alive. For years she had buried her grief in war. For years she had told herself they were gone, taken by the void. Yet here they were, breathing, moving, clinging to a human as though he were blood. The chamber remained silent, every advisor watching her carefully. No one dared speak first. Finally the Queen rose. Her voice was low, but it carried like thunder. "Who found them?" An aide bowed low. "A human rescue team, Majesty. On a mining colony called Vela 4. Her eyes narrowed. "And the boy?" The aide hesitated. "He raised them from the wreckage of their pod. He calls them his sisters." The Queen's ridges bristled. Her jaws flexed as a hiss rattled through the chamber. But it wasn't the hiss of anger. It was grief, long hidden, bleeding out. She turned away from the screens. For the first time in decades, her shoulders trembled. "My daughters," she whispered. Her council exchanged uneasy looks. The Queen of the Zerathians had never wept. She was the scourge of fleets, the breaker of treaties. Yet now her voice cracked with something more dangerous than rage: love. The silence shattered when Admiral Sithos stepped forward, armored plates gleaming. "Majesty, forgive me, but we must act swiftly. The humans have them. They will use them against you. Already their high councils will be plotting." The Queen's claws scraped the stone floor. She knew he was right. Humanity would never see her daughters as children. They would see them as weapons, bargaining chips, perhaps even as weaknesses. And that boy, why was he protecting them? Why did they cling to him as though he were their blood? "Gather the fleets," the Queen commanded, her voice steady again. "Every ship within range." We moved toward human space. The chamber erupted in murmurs. War. The word hung heavy in the air. "Majesty," another advisor said carefully, "an open invasion could ignite a galaxy-wide conflict." "We do not yet know the humans' intentions." The Queen's eyes flared. "I know their intentions. They will not return my children willingly. And if they harm them—" She bared her teeth. "I will burn their stars one by one." Her council bowed in silence. None dared argue further. But when they left the chamber, the Queen lingered alone. She touched the flickering image of her daughters on the hollow. Two little girls hiding behind a boy with defiant eyes. "A human boy," the Queen whispered softly, a language older than human history. Words of a mother to her lost children, words that no one else would hear. Then, for the first time in years, she allowed herself a single tear. Meanwhile, in human space, the discovery set governments ablaze. In the capital of the United Earth Alliance, officials argued deep into the night. "We must return them immediately," one minister insisted. "The Queen will slaughter us if we don't." "No," shouted another. "If we hand them over, we show weakness. They are leverage, our greatest bargaining chip. With the daughters in our custody, The Zerathians can be controlled. Around the table, military commanders whispered darker ideas. If they never reached the Queen, if the daughters were quietly removed, the war might end before it begins. But in a corner of the room, one intelligence officer spoke words that silenced everyone. The problem isn't the daughters. It's the boy. All eyes turned to him. The Zerathian princesses see him as family, the officer explained. If the Queen discovers that, she may not attack us. She may demand. Him? The thought rippled through the chamber. The boy was human. A citizen. Could they hand him over? Would they? The president of the Alliance leaned forward, voice low. Then we must decide. Who do we fear more, our enemies, or one stubborn child? Far away, aboard the transport ship carrying Callan and his alien sisters toward human territory, the boy sat awake in the dark. The girls lay beside him, curled up close, their faint markings glowing softly. He stroked their hair, whispering promises. No one will take you from me, he said. Not the humans. Not your queen, no one. The older girl stirred, murmuring a single word in halting human tongue. Home? Callan's chest tightened. He didn't know what home meant anymore. The colony was gone. The galaxy wanted to use them, and somewhere, a mother with claws of steel and fire in her heart was already moving fleets across the stars. Callan whispered back, his voice fierce in the dark. Wherever we are together, that's home. The stars outside the viewport shimmered cold and endless. And in their shadows, warships were already on the move. The galaxy had not been this tense in decades. Every news channel, every military outpost, every spaceport bar carried the same whisper. The Queen's daughters live. For humanity, it was both a miracle and a curse. Some celebrated, believing the discovery could mean peace if the children were returned. Others warned it was the spark of a second galactic war. And in the shadow of those debates, fleets quietly moved. On the bridge of the Horizon's vigil, the transport ship carrying Callan and the alien princesses, Lieutenant Harrow watched the comm screens fill with urgent updates. Zerathian fleets mobilizing in Sector 12. 3 human colonies evacuating near the border. High. Council in emergency session. War was breathing down their necks. Harrow glanced at Callan. The boy sat near the viewport. The 2 alien girls pressed close against him, their small hands gripping his sleeve as though letting go would mean losing everything. The crew avoided looking at them, some with awe, others with quiet disgust. One soldier muttered under his breath, "We should have left them. Nothing good comes of carrying Zerathian spawn," Callan heard. His eyes flashed. "They're not spawn. They're my sisters," the soldier sneered. "They're the daughters of a monster who's butchered billions." Callan stood, fists clenched. "Then maybe they'll grow up different. Because I raised them, not her." The words silenced the room. Harrow felt the sting of truth in them. This boy, stranded and alone, had done what armies could not. He had changed the course of the galaxy with nothing but love and stubbornness. But Harrow also knew the truth. The galaxy didn't care about love. It cared about power. In the heart of human space, the High Council convened in emergency chambers. Ministers shouted across the great hall, their voices echoing off glass walls. "We must return the children at once," one cried. "The Queen will annihilate us if we don't." "Return them?" Another scoffed. "You would hand the most powerful bargaining chips in history to our greatest enemy." "Bargaining chips?" The first snapped. "They are children. Children who could one day lead fleets against us," came the cold reply. The debate spiraled into chaos. Finally, the president of the Alliance raised her voice. "Enough!" The hall stilled. Her gaze swept across the chamber. "We stand on the edge of war. If we keep the daughters, the Queen will attack. If we return them, she will see weakness and press her advantage. Either way, our people will bleed. We must prepare for every outcome. But what of the boy?" asked a general, his tone grave. Murmurs rippled through the room. Everyone knew the footage, the way the alien daughters clung to him, the way he called them sisters. "If the Queen learns of his bond to them," the general continued, "she may demand him as well," a minister scoffed. "Then give him to her. He is one boy against billions of lives." The president's eyes hardened. "He is human. We do not hand over our own like cattle." But doubt filled the chamber. Because deep inside, Many wondered if sacrificing one child could save an entire species. Back aboard the Horizon's Vigil, Callan sat with the girls in the dim light of the crew quarters. The older one, her markings brighter now, tilted her head. "Brother, why soldiers angry?" she asked in broken human speech. Callan stroked her hair gently. "Because they don't understand." The younger one, curled against his side, whispered something in her own language. Callan nodded. He had learned fragments of their tongue over the years, enough to understand her fear. "She says the stars feel dangerous," Callan told Harrow, who stood by the door. Harrow frowned. "She's not wrong." "War is coming." Callan looked up, eyes fierce. "Then I'll protect them." "No matter what," Harrow sighed. "Callan, you're just one boy." "No," Callan said, pulling the girls closer. "I'm their brother." "That's stronger than any army." The conviction in his voice made Harrow shiver, but outside the fragile bubble of the transport ship, the galaxy sharpened its knives. Zerathian warships slid through the void like predators, their spires glowing with cruel light. The command ship Resolute floated like a blade of steel against the void. Its observation deck buzzed with nervous energy as whispers spread through the crew. Every soldier, every officer knew the truth by now. The children found in the shelter were not just alien younglings. They were the missing daughters of the Zerathian Queen, the Queen, leader of the most feared empire in the quadrant. A being whispered about in war stories, a shadow that haunted nightmares. She was said to command fleets with a single word, to scorch planets in fire if dishonored. For years her daughters had been gone, vanished. The Zerathians had scoured the galaxy, blaming humans for their disappearance, but no proof had ever surfaced. Until now, and somehow, a human boy had been their guardian. Commander Vela stood at the observation glass, her arms stiff behind her back. The stars flickered coldly, and beyond them in the distance the faint green shimmer of Zerathian ships pulsed like predators circling. "They know," murmured Lieutenant Aris beside her. His voice trembled. "The Queen must already know we have them." Vela didn't turn. Her jaw tightened. "Then we stand on the edge of war." Behind them the door hissed open. Two guards escorted the boy Eli into the room. He walked calmly, even defiantly, though his clothes were torn and his hands still scraped from the shelter. The alien princesses trailed behind him, their small claws curled into his sleeves. They moved with the nervous steps of children, but their glowing royal markings shimmered faintly on their skin, proof of their identity. The B crew looked at them as if they were holding live plasma grenades. Eli stared straight at Commander Vela. "You're not giving them back." His words were steady, not a question. "A demand." A murmur rippled through the soldiers. The audacity of the boy, speaking like that to a fleet commander, should have been laughable. But no one laughed. His eyes, hardened far beyond his years, carried a weight that silenced them. Commander Vela turned, studying him. "You understand what you're saying, child. Those aren't strays. They're the heirs of a throne that has bathed worlds in blood. Their mother will come for them. And when she does, every human outpost within range will burn." Eli didn't flinch. "Then let her come." "She won't take them." The alien girls pressed closer to him. One hissed softly, her forked tongue flickering with unease. The other whispered in a strange melodic tongue. Eli knelt beside her, whispering back in broken words of their language, stumbling, awkward but protective. The crew stared, dumbfounded. "You speak to them?" Lieutenant Aris asked quietly. Eli shrugged. "Enough, I learned. They taught me too." He stroked the younger one's scaled head gently, like an older brother calming a frightened sibling. "We survived together. They're not monsters. They're just kids." The silence in the room deepened. To see a human boy showing tenderness to Zerathian royalty, it was something none of them could have imagined. For decades, humans had been raised on stories of Zerathian cruelty. They were the enemy, the destroyers, and yet here, before their eyes, a child was tearing down that wall. An alarm broke the silence. "Commander," a voice called from the comm station. "Zerathian fleet inbound. Multiple dreadnoughts. They've locked onto our coordinates." The room froze. Vela's expression darkened. "So it begins." The crew scrambled to stations. The distant shimmer of green light on the horizon thickened into monstrous shapes. Zerathian warships, their hulls lined with glowing veins of energy, their weapons primed. A shadow filled the main view screen, The face of the Zarathian queen appeared. Her visage was terrible to behold, scaled skin like black glass, eyes burning with molten gold, and a crown of bone-like ridges curling from her skull. When she spoke, her voice was a chorus of tones vibrating with ancient fury. "Humans," she hissed, "you have what is mine. Return them to me, or your species will drown in fire." The crew stiffened. Some trembled. Even seasoned soldiers felt the raw weight of her presence, pressing on their chests like gravity. Commander Vela stood tall. "Your Majesty," she said with forced calm, "we did not take them. They were found abandoned on a colony world. No harm has been done to them." The Queen's eyes narrowed to slits. "Do you take me for a fool? For years my daughters have been gone. For years I have searched. And now they appear in your care, protected by a human child. Lies, theft, treachery." Her gaze sharpened, burning into the screen. "Return them, or I will carve truth from your bones." The alien princesses whimpered, pressing tighter to Eli. He stepped forward, bold, reckless, brave. "They don't want to go with you," he shouted at the screen. "They're safe with me." Gasps erupted across the command deck. The boy had spoken directly to the Queen, the most feared being in the galaxy. The Queen's molten eyes locked onto him. For a heartbeat, the room went deathly still, and then something changed. Her fury faltered. Her gaze softened, just barely, as her daughters peeked from behind Eli's shoulders. Their markings glowed faintly, responding to her presence. For the first time in years, the Queen saw them, alive, breathing, and choosing to stand behind a human child. The Queen's breath caught. Her talons curled against her throne. "My daughters," she whispered, a note of pain breaking through her rage. But the softness hardened again. She bared her teeth. "You have twisted them against me, and for that, human child, you will pay." The transmission? Cut! The deck shook as the first Zarathian dreadnought charged its weapons. The war had come, and at the center, of it all stood a boy who refused to let go. The stars outside the Resolute flared white as Zarathian. Dreadnoughts spread into attack formation. Their hulls pulsed with emerald fire, living warships bred for destruction. Human frigates scrambled to shield the command ship, but the scale of the enemy was overwhelming. The first blast came like the roar of a collapsing sun. Green plasma slammed into the human defense line, tearing through shields, shredding steel. The Resolute shook violently, alarms shrieking across the decks. Sparks rained from control panels, shields at 60%. A technician cried. Commander Vela gripped the railing. "Return fire. Hold the line." Human cannons spat blue lances of energy into the void. One Zarathian cruiser split open, molten fragments spinning into darkness. But for every enemy that fell, two more closed in. The battlefield was a storm of fire and shadows. On the deck, Eli clutched the alien princesses tightly. The girls hissed, their markings glowing brighter, reacting to the chaos around them. Their eyes shimmered, not with fear alone, but with something deeper. Power. "They don't like it," Eli said, raising his voice over the alarms. "They feel everything. The fighting, the anger. It's hurting them." Lieutenant Aras glanced at the children, unease etched on his face. "They're connected to her," he muttered. "The Queen, maybe even to her fleet." Commander Vela snapped. "Then we use it. If there's a way to turn this fight, we'll take it." Eli spun toward her, furious. "No, they're not weapons. They're just kids." Before Vela could answer, the ship jolted again, harder. The deck lights flickered red. A hull breach alarm screamed from below. "The dreadnought is charging its main cannon," shouted the weapons officer. "If it fires, we're finished." The crew braced for the killing blow. And then something happened. The princesses shrieked in unison, their voices high and piercing, vibrating through the walls. Their markings flared like burning suns, and for a moment the Zarathian dreadnought faltered. Its weapons stuttered. Its engines flickered. Across the void, the entire enemy fleet seemed to pause, hesitant, disoriented. The crew stared, stunned. What? "What did they just do?" Aras whispered. "They're linked," Vela said slowly, awe in her tone. "Their bloodline ties to the Queen herself. They just pushed back against her fleet." The girls trembled, exhausted, clinging to Eli. He stroked their shoulders protectively, whispering, "It's okay. You don't have to fight. Just stay with me." But the truth was undeniable. These children weren't only heirs. They were living conduits of Zarathian command, and right now they were tipping the battlefield. The Queen's image burst back onto the view screen, her fury palpable. "Release them," she thundered, her voice cracking the air. Her eyes blazed as she looked past the humans and into her daughters' faces. "You dare bind them to your kind? You dare make them defy their mother?" Eli shouted back, fists clenched. "We didn't make them do anything. They chose me. They chose to stay with me." The Queen's gaze locked on him, molten fire in her eyes. "Then you are the chain I must break." Her hand raised, a command rippling through her fleet. The Zarathian warships surged forward, weapons igniting in a blaze brighter than stars. The battle turned savage. Human ships fell one by one, their wreckage scattering across the void. Fighters dove in desperate runs, some never returning. The Resolute shuddered as another blast ripped across its hull. "Commander, we can't hold much longer," an officer shouted. Vela's voice was steel. "Then we don't hold, we strike. Aim all batteries at the dreadnought. Target the Queen's flagship." The crew obeyed, their hands trembling but determined. Cannons roared. Missiles streaked into the dark. The Queen's ship absorbed the punishment like a mountain in a storm, but cracks began to show. And then the alien princesses cried out again. Their glow surged, more focused this time. Eli's hand clasped theirs tightly as if anchoring them. The Queen's flagship faltered. Its shields rippled, energy stuttering. Gasps erupted across the deck. "They're weakening her," Lieutenant Aris said. The void burned with fire. Human ships and Zarathian dreadnoughts clashed in chaos, weapons carving streaks of light across the black canvas of space. The Resolute groaned as explosions rippled along her hull. Inside soldiers bled and screamed, but none abandoned their posts. They all knew the truth. This was no longer just a battle for survival. This was history unfolding. At the center of the storm stood Eli, gripping the hands of the Zarathian princesses. Their glowing markings flickered weakly, exhaustion pulling at their small frames. Yet still they stood, leaning against him, refusing to break. The Queen's fleet pressed closer, her flagship looming like a mountain of obsidian fire. On the screen her face appeared again, seething with cold fury. "You dare pit my blood against me?" she whispered, her molten eyes narrowing. "You would tear a mother from her daughters." Eli stepped forward, trembling but unyielding. "You lost them long before I found them. They're not afraid of you anymore. They don't want to go back." The Queen's talons clenched her throne. For the first time her voice cracked. "They are mine." "No," Eli said, his voice steady now. "They're not yours to own." The bridge crew looked between the boy and the screen, stunned. A child was speaking to the most feared ruler in the galaxy, like no general ever dared. And somehow she was listening. The elder princess hissed softly, tugging Eli's sleeve. Her strange voice, broken but urgent, whispered words only he seemed to understand. Eli nodded, then turned back toward the Queen. "They don't want war," he said. "They don't want crowns. They just want to live, to be free. Can you give them that?" The Queen's eyes burned with conflict. Her fury battled with something deeper, a wound she had buried for years. She had lost her daughters once. Now to see them alive, breathing, glowing, but clinging to a human boy instead of her. Her voice trembled. "You would steal them from me. A fragile child, daring to call yourself their protector." Eli's jaw clenched. "I'm not stealing them. I'm standing with them, because someone has to." The younger princess pressed against his arm, her markings glowing faintly brighter. For the first time, her voice in broken human words echoed across the deck. "Stay." With Eli, the crew froze. The boy's heart leapt. And the Queen staggered. Her daughters had chosen. The battlefield outside shifted. Zarathian ships faltered as the Queen's focus cracked. Some wavered, their attacks slowing, confused by the sudden fracture in command. Human forces seized the chance, driving back with renewed fire, though still heavily outnumbered. Commander Vela's eyes hardened. She saw what was happening. "This is it," she whispered. "This isn't about weapons. It's about her losing control." She turned to Eli. "You have one chance, and this before we're all ash." Eli swallowed hard. His knees shook, but he stepped closer to the screen, pulling the princesses with him. Their markings glowed like twin stars, filling the deck with strange light. He looked straight into the Queen's eyes. "You call yourself their mother," he said softly. "Then prove it. Not with fire, not with fear, Prove it by letting them choose. The queen's breath rattled. Her talons dug into her throne, cracking its surface. Her daughters stared at her, eyes wide, markings pulsing, not as subjects, but as children staring at a stranger they feared, and once loved. And in that silence her empire trembled. For a long moment nothing moved. The fleets hung in deadly stillness, weapons poised but silent. Then the queen rose slowly from her throne. Her crown of ridges glowed faintly, her molten gaze locked on her daughters. They "Choose you," she whispered, her voice breaking into shards of pain. A pause, her fury flickered, dimmed. Her eyes closed for a brief, fragile moment, and when they opened again there was no fire, only sorrow. "You have taken from me what no army ever could," she said. "Not with force, with love." Her hand lifted, trembling, and the command rippled through her fleet. Zerathian warships powered down, their weapons dimming like fading stars. The battlefield stilled, gasps spread across the Resolute. The war had stopped. The queen's image wavered, fading with the last of her pride. "Guard them well, human child," she said, "for if they fall, so will you." And then she was gone. Her flagship turned slowly, retreating into the shadows of space. One by one the Zerathian ships followed. The great armada withdrew like a tide receding into the void. The crew of the Resolute stood in stunned silence. Against all odds, against all firepower, they had survived, and at the heart of it stood a boy with nothing but courage, 2 alien girls at his side. Eli collapsed to his knees, exhausted. The princesses curled beside him, their glow dimming into the gentle rhythm of sleep. The bridge crew watched in awe. Lieutenant Aras whispered, How did he do it?" Commander Vela's gaze softened, her voice quiet but sure. "Because humanity's greatest weapon has never been ships or guns." She looked at the boy, holding the daughters of his enemy as if they were family. "It's the heart that refuses to give up." The stars outside glittered with fragile peace. The war was not over. The queen would return, shadows would rise again. But for now the galaxy had been changed by a boy who had dared to stand between fear and love, and as long as Eli lived, the Zerathian princesses would never face the void alone. Peace never lasts. In the weeks after the battle, the human fleet limped home. Damaged ships crawled into orbit around Allied stations, their hulls scarred but their flags still raised. Across the colonies, people whispered the same name, Eli. The boy who stood against the Zerathian queen, the child who held back a war with nothing but courage. To the humans, he became a symbol. To the Zerathians, he became a threat on the Resolute. Repairs rang through the decks, sparks flying, voices echoing. Yet in one quiet chamber, Eli sat on the floor with the princesses curled beside him. Their scales shimmered faintly in the low light, their breathing steady, peaceful. They trusted him completely. But Eli wasn't at peace. His eyes lingered on the stars outside the viewport. Somewhere out there the queen waited. She had pulled her fleet back, but he knew the truth. She had not surrendered. She had only chosen patience. She would come again, and this time she might not hesitate to burn everything in her path. Commander Vela entered silently. Her uniform was scorched, her arm still bandaged from the last fight. She studied the boy for a long moment before speaking. "You changed the course of history," she said softly. Eli didn't look up. "No, they did." He gestured at the sleeping princesses. "I just stood with them." Vela stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Do you understand what this means? You're not just a boy anymore. You're the guardian of heirs to an empire that wants them back." Eli's hands tightened on his knees. "Then they'll have to get through me first." The steel in his voice startled her. He wasn't boasting. He wasn't playing hero. He meant it. Far across the galaxy, in the obsidian throne hall of the Zerathian homeworld, the queen sat in silence. The great war banners hung limp in the dim chamber. No generals spoke. No servants dared breathe loudly. The queen's eyes burned with quiet fire as she stared into the void beyond her throne. Her daughters lived. That was her only comfort. But they had chosen another, a human, a fragile child who had stolen their loyalty. It was unforgivable. And yet beneath her rage, something else gnawed at her. Doubt. The human boy had stood fearless before her. He had not cowered. He had not begged. He had fought with words sharper than blades, and in her daughter's eyes, she had seen something she had long forgotten. Trust. Her talons curled against the throne. If she killed him, would she lose them forever? If she spared him, would he grow into a greater threat than any fleet? The Queen closed her eyes, a decision forming. She would not rush. She would wait. And when she struck, it would be final. Back aboard the Resolute, Eli was summoned to the command deck weeks later. The princesses clung to him as he walked, unwilling to let him out of reach. Vela met him with a grave expression. "We've intercepted transmissions," she said. "The Zarathians aren't regrouping. They're spreading, moving into the outer rim. Not an invasion, something else. They're searching." "Searching for what?" Eli asked. Vela's gaze flicked to the girls. "For them." The room chilled. "They won't stop," she continued. "They'll scour every world, every colony. They'll put billions at risk until they're back in Zarathian hands. Unless—" she hesitated. "We move first," Eli frowned. "What do you mean?" Vela lowered her voice. "We take you and the princesses somewhere the Queen can't reach. A place hidden, deep in uncharted space. Until we find a way to end this war before it begins." The boy shook his head. "Running won't work. She'll never stop hunting. Not while she thinks they belong to her." His words carried more weight than his years. Even Vela felt it. The younger princess tugged his sleeve, whispering in her soft, broken human words, "Stay." "Fight." The elder one nodded firmly, her golden eyes gleaming with defiance. Vela exhaled slowly. "Then the path ahead is clear. If we don't prepare, the next war will consume us all." That night, Eli dreamed, he stood in a field of stars, endless and cold. Across from him, the Queen emerged, her molten eyes piercing through the dark. Between them, the princesses reached out, but their hands trembled, caught between mother and guardian. The Queen's voice echoed like thunder. "They will choose again, child. And when they do, you will lose." Eli woke in a cold sweat, the princesses still asleep against him. He stared at them, his chest tightening. He had won once.